Hello, everybody. Just to recap, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Honor and I'm from Honor Way Marketing based in the UK. And I am a marketing representation company representing and working with these lovely two clients from Kenya. We've got Shompole Wilderness, Sam and Johann at the bottom there for me. And then we've got Ross and Caro from Mobile Expeditions, Roca River Camp in the Masai Mara in Kenya. The reason I wanted to do this webinar today is I will give you an overview of the camps, but really my passion has always been to work with privately owned and run camps, and that's exactly what these two are. So I thought it'd be lovely to bring the people behind these amazing places to the forefront so you could meet them. So the idea of today is that I will do a super quick overview of both of the camps just so that we can set the scene. But then afterwards, the idea is that we will kind of spend a little bit of time getting to know Ross and Caro and Sam and Johann and their passions, how they came to have their camps, and how they run them, let's say. First of all, some things. I will be following up this webinar either on Friday or early next week with a follow-up email where we will have the recording so you can share this with colleagues, but also with rates and fact sheets and any Dropbox files. If you've got questions today, I see already somebody has. The chat box is, the chat box is off. Yes, I think that's because this is a webinar. So what I would suggest is putting all your questions and answers in the Q&A. I will monitor those as we go along, but we will obviously have a bit of time at the end to do a question and answer session. So anything that you can think of that you would really like to chat about with Ross and Caro and Sam and Johann, then please do that in the Q&A. Other than that, a huge thank you for being with us today and spending your time with us. And welcome to my Kenya webinar today. It's been a little while since I last did one. So I am just going to start off by giving you a bit of an overview. As I mentioned before, I'm a marketing company based in the UK, representing my clients in Europe as well. Dutch by nationality, but have spent my time living in Zambia and then set up my marketing company working with lodges and camps around Southern and East Africa. I was also lucky enough in COVID to spend some time in Kenya. My passion has always been to work with small privately owned camps and lodges where it really is about the people and their passion for the environments and the people that they work with. And these two camps that we're going to look at today really are brilliant examples of that. So this tells you a bit about me. Roca River Camp has been recently named Roca River Camp. Mobile Expeditions is a company that has been around for a long time. Ross and Caro themselves also have Lake Baringo, Samatian Island, and that's what they've managed for a long time. And then they recently set up Roca River Camp in the Masai Mara in 2022. I'm just going to go through the rough facts, and then more of the great stories, what we can find out about them, we will cover afterwards. To give you an idea, the location and access, it's located in the Masai Mara National Reserve. You can see here what you would do is you would fly into Muziera airstrip. You could then cross into the park through Muziera Gate, and then you come down to this area called Paradise Plains, where Roca River Camp is located right on the Mara, here on the edge of the Paradise Plains, overlooking the Mara Triangle on the other side. It's roughly 30 minutes from the airstrip and can obviously be accessed by scheduled flight, charter and road if needed. Here we've got Ross and Caro in a picture, because obviously you will be able to see them in real life, virtually. But they have set up this camp, and it is very much a privately owned and run camp, which is their passion. You've got here the views that are over the Paradise Plains on one side, which is actually the sunrise, and then you've got the river located just on the other side, looking out over the Mara Triangle with the sunset as well. They've got 10 rooms, and the joy of this is that it's got the feeling of a mobile camp, but it's fixed. So you've got all the luxuries of a fixed camp, but you've also got the feeling of really being out in the middle of the bush, despite it being the Mara, the Masai Mara. So you're away from the people here with the great peace and quiet of the location. You've got here where they're sitting, actually right here. You've got the sort of living room area. There's a tea room on one side, and then there's the dining room on the other side. And this is where you can relax throughout the day. And then your activities are really tailor-made towards how you want to work out your day. You've got relaxing sofas there where you can look out and spot the elephants like Ross and Caro were doing this afternoon, passing by. They then come down to the river. So it really is just a very peaceful spot, breakfast over the river there. You can then plan your days, whether it be a whole day out with a breakfast picnic and a lunch picnic, or you can come back for breakfast, brunch. It just depends on the time of year, what's happening around, and how you and your group would like to plan your days. This is really, as I said, just to give you the idea of it. You've got 10 rooms at the moment. We can cater exclusively for groups, which would be up to a maximum of 30, but that is including kids, and all the rooms can be in different formations of singles, triples, doubles, whatever you might need. They've got a lot of the lovely safari accompaniments here. So you've got your milk churn with water for washing, but you've also got beautiful ensuite bucket shower rooms with beautiful French dresses as well. And this gives you it with 5 rooms looking out over the river, and then 5 rooms looking out over the plains at the back. Great bucket showers which hold 40 litres of lovely hot water. They've got the sort of the safari basin there, but they've also got the basin in the room, and then we've got a lovely bath setup that they can do for guests under the stars later on. Lots of activities in the area, so you can be as busy or as relaxed as you'd like. Lots to do also for families, and you can sort of, at the moment they were saying that as it gets hotter, you can put a little portable pool up, you can play badminton with the team, you've got the Maasai element, you can go and visit the village nearby, but also a lot of it will be about the game activities where you can indeed just pop out with kids younger for shorter time or longer time depending, and we will then work out your itinerary around it. So this just gives you a little bit about the experiences. The brilliant thing that we can also do is obviously the external of the exclusive activities, hot air ballooning. We can arrange to meet some of the conservationists where you can go out with the Mara elephant or the lion predator project, all of those kind of things if you have specific interests. So that really just gives us a little bit of a summary of Mobile, just to set the scene of Roca River Camp, based in the Mara, so that you can then ask more questions, but also find out who the people are behind this. Moving on to Shompole Wilderness, we are now located sort of southwest of Nairobi. It's about a 3.5 hours drive to this lovely little area. A lot of people ask me about Shompole and say, oh, is that the old Shompole camp? Which it isn't. This one has been there 7 years, and it's located on the Owasuniero River. And the idea, I believe, is that Great Plains is coming into the old Shompole camp, but this is a different style. But it's all brilliant because it means that there'll be a lot more marketing and focus on this area, which these guys have been in for a long time. Sam has been working for Soralo, which is who set up the Conservancy. Johann has a passion in hospitality, and the two met and then set up a camp. So we will find out more about this later. To give you a bit more of a visual, the old camp is located up here in the escarpment, but this is where we're located. So it's a really fascinating area, which complements super well with the Mara, which needs less of an introduction. Because you've got landscapes, you've got Lake Magadi, where you've got the salt pans, you've got the flamingos that are over here, an incredibly strange town that looks like it's out of a whole era bygone. But then you've also got Lake Natron over here, you've got Shompole Hill, and then you've got the sort of sitting of the floor of the Rift Valley with the Nguriman and the loiters here, which then lead back to the Mara. So that's why I think it works out to be a really good complement with the Mara. Location of the camp is on the river. This is a great river without crocodiles, complement versus the camp, the river that Roca sits on. So we can go tubing and playing in the river here and enjoying that. As I said, this one is privately owned by Sam and Johann, and they live on site with their 2 children, Saya and Taro, who are being homeschooled and also taught, I believe, to be excellent hosts in the area as well. Some fast facts here. We've got 6 ensuite tents with views over the river, and then you can see the escarpment of the Nguriman in the background there. And then you've got a lovely pool area here. The rooms are located either looking out over the river or hidden in the trees to give you a feeling of a tree house, or indeed looking out over the plains. They equally can be various setups of triples, twins, doubles, etc. And then a bathroom ensuite over there with a shower, double sinks, and lots of storage for your things. The activities, the great place about the great thing about this place is it's such a good complement to the Mara, where you are sort of very busy with the game viewing, etc. So this is a really nice place to do a bit more. There's so much to do. Obviously the game drives can be brilliant. As Johann said, they saw lion at the hide today and 5 cheetah on a morning game drive, which is fantastic. But equally, you can have some fun going over to Lake Magadi, see if you can see the the flamingos. But you can also go and do some walks, cultural visits. What they try and do is that you would go and then walk back to the villages with the communities and their cattle and see how they herd that, so you get a different experience. Lots of other activities. You've got the baboon interaction walks with a researcher, which is actually really interesting. So plenty to do in this area of exploring, which just gives you a taster of what you can do here. The landscapes are incredible. So if you can either organize a scenic flight in, or indeed a helicopter flight when you're there, it really is worth it, because you've got these amazing aerial views over the lake. Magadi. I was having a Lake Baringa, Lake Magadi moment, but over Lake Magadi, and then you can fly down almost as far down to Lake Natron. And then when you come back up, we did an amazing flight where we then went over the Ngurumans into the sort of the loiters and then came back down again. So it is really worth it if you can do either one or the other, or as we're going to be doing on an educational trip next month, we will be doing a scenic flight from the Mara over to Shompole, which is also brilliant. So this just gives you an activity. And then most recently, they have also set up the Shompole Hide, which is fantastic for those morning and night game viewing, if you like. You are able to sleep in the Shompole Hide, so it acts as a really nice option. It's brilliant, obviously, for photographers, but I also, as a want-to-be photographer, had a lovely time there and saw some really cool special stuff that I haven't seen before. So we actually stayed over and saw serval coming in. We striped hyena that came in. So again, this complements really well with the unusual kind of sightings that come in. It's a great place to go and do the morning, or you can do the afternoon, but it's also really cool to sleep out so that you get those nocturnal animals coming in. And the great thing about it, which Johann, I'm sure, will tell you a little bit more about, is also the lighting. The lighting doesn't just come out from the hide. You've got side lighting and back lighting, which gives a whole different aspect to your photography. So that basically gives me a little bit of a taster, I hope, into the 2 camps. So what I'd really love to do now is actually get to know Ross and Caro and Sam and Johann a bit more, because they're far more interesting than I am. So let's kick off with Sam and Johann at Shompole. Sam has got a couple of slides that she would like to show you, and then we'll look at Ross. But then I'd love it to be a slightly more informal chat where we find out a bit, because both of them have got such incredible stories to tell. So Sam, I'm going to hand the floor to you first of all.
All right, good start is to unmute. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks, Honor, for putting this together. It's nerve-wracking for all of us who live in camps to be sort of, is the internet working, or are we going to say the right thing? But thank you so much. So I think for me, it's easier to talk with some pictures behind me. So I'm just going to put some pictures up. Can you see that, Honor?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so here's us. As Honor mentioned, we own and live at and manage Shompole Wilderness in Kenya's South Rift, and this is our families with Saya and Taru and Rex. And this picture was only taken a couple of days ago because we realized we actually didn't have any family photos at all, which is quite shocking. The last family photo was this one, which was taken a number of years ago with a different family dog. And it was about this time, the kids were about this age when we actually started looking at starting a camp down here. As Anna mentioned, I do conservation work in the area, and Johann was very familiar with the area, having been a manager at the original lodge. But it was about this time we were looking, and this is what we found. And Johann said to me, Sam, we're going to put a camp here. And I said, you're absolutely mad. But now this is what it looks like today. So I actually just took this picture this afternoon, and that's the exact site where little Saya was sitting 7 years ago. And so now this is our lawn, and you can see our mess area behind. And, you know, the reason we're here is because I'm sure, same with Ross and Caro, we grew up in Kenya and we love wildlife primarily. We love big spaces. And this is just such an incredible, special area, the importance of which I'll highlight in a minute. But it's really because of the wildlife and the open spaces that we were both here and able to start a camp together. Anna did put us on the map, but I thought I would just show this bigger map. The little house here is where we are. And this map is just showing, so Ross and Caro are over here in the Mara, and then you've got Amboseli. These are our two nationally protected areas in southern Kenya. And Shompole sits right in between them. So it's really an important place for wildlife connections and for this bigger landscape of southern Kenya. And if you look over the border, you can see how many incredible protected areas there are right across the border. So it just shows it's an incredibly important place for wildlife and sort of biodiversity really in general. And the other reason we really love it here is our amazing communities. So this is all Maasai land. As I mentioned before, there's no nationally protected areas. It's all under conservation by the local people, and that's little baby Saya when we started. And we really wanted to raise our kids in the bush. Johann was raised on a farm and I was raised in Nairobi, but we had a passion for sort of wanting to live in the bush and raise our kids. So that's our amazing guide, Nixon, with the kids when they were little. And just being able to spend time, you know, walking and talking in the bush was what we really wanted for our family. So just a little bit about Soralo. Anna mentioned, so I'm a zoologist by training, but really interested in understanding the relationship between the Maasai and wildlife in places where they both have to live together. So I started my life down here about 18 years ago, just helping to sort of set up Soralo and understand how the Maasai were managing to coexist with wildlife, when it was going right, when it was going wrong, and looking at how we could keep the connection really between the Mara and Amboseli in as much as we can. So just a picture to show what we're talking about. This is the coexistence we see every day with our communities and the wildlife living side by side. It's not always easy, but this is what it needs to look like into the future. So just a little bit about the different things that Soralo does, and then I'll show you how Shompole Wilderness also fits in. So to make this landscape work, we do a lot of work with sort of legal land rights, governance work. How are people managing their land? How do we keep ownership within the hands of the Maasai? Then we have rangers, and we have sort of people who track lions and make sure they're trying not to eat people's cows. We support a lot of women's beadwork enterprises, try and understand the culture and how that needs to continue, and basically look at what communities need to keep this landscape open for future generations. So this is little Saya starting with me when I was doing a lot of the field work. She's checking a camera trap. I don't believe she can read or write at all at the time, but she's doing a good job pretending. So we're checking a camera trap, and then she used to join me on my field work. So that's her again, writing some notes about some grass. And this is what homeschooling looks like today. We've a bit more settled. We have a tent, but we do have an elephant who bothers us in the middle of the lessons. And then, of course, just, you know, sharing Johann's particular passion for snakes, which not very many people share, but Taru does, and that's because he started very young. And so just also trying to share our love for things that not everybody might love. And that the second photo was actually a couple of days ago. How about and also sharing it with our teams who really don't like snakes either, but you can see they're starting to get used to the craziness of living in Shompole Wilderness and having wildlife all around. And then, of course, there's a community aspect. So a lot of time is spent under trees discussing things with the community and how Shompole Wilderness can best help. And a couple of the ways we do is we support directly through the lodge, but also through our guests, teacher salaries. So these are all the teachers we support with some of our leaders who we try and meet regularly to talk about their issues and sort of just, you know, make sure we can put faces to names. We also support some of Soralo's rangers. And we try as much as we can to support the women to do all the beadwork in the camp, and also sell to our clients. And this is the last slide. So this is just, you know, it's all about trying to have fun as well. Anyone will tell you running a camp is a lot of hard work, but it's worth it when you can see that it's a benefit to everybody and that you can have fun while you're doing it. So thanks, Anna. I think that's that for now.
Brilliant. Johann, do you just want to tell us a little bit about how you came to be at Shompole and then met Sam as well, because you've got a long history in hospitality, and then we will chat to Ross and Caro as well.
Yeah, I was I was working in Savo at Galdessa, and Anthony, who built Galdessa, came. And he came actually with the investors for Shompole Lodge, and just by chance we managed to click and things worked out well. And he said, "Listen, if you're ever looking for a job, let me know." Anyway, a little while later, I was in the area, and he said, "Dude, you want a job?" And I thought, "Yeah, well, why not? I'll come down and have a look." So I ended up coming down to Shompole Lodge and being one of the first managers. That was still doing a little bit of work, but I was here after Neil Rocher, and who helped build the lodge. And then I was here for a short time, and Sam and I had met a long time ago. We won't get into how we met, but we met a long time ago. And then Sam came down and started doing her conservation work here, and was the first researcher in the area, and living in tents and in bomas and doing some serious, I don't know how she did it, but anyway, she did a lot of hard work here. And then I kept on coming down and annoying her. And there was a lodge on the site here called Loisidio, which was a community-based lodge. And it didn't really work and kept on getting flooded. So we were asked if we wanted to take it over. And we said yes. And hence you saw the photos that Sam did right in the beginning. There was just a pile of dust, and I said, "Darling, we're going to put the lawn right there." And she thought I was mad. Anyway, that's sort of how we got here.
Brilliant. And you are a guide there and a photographer as well, having obviously instigated the hide to be one of the best hides in Africa as well. So that's your passion as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I did hotel management in Switzerland. I've traveled around to some of more, should I say, some of the dangerous places in the world-ish in Africa. I was in Somalia, Iraq, South Sudan, Congo. But yeah, we've had a good time. And when we started the hide, there's a guy called Will Barrett Lucas. Some of you might know him. He's he's a professional photographer. He started Beetle Cam and has a company called Camtraptions. He came down here and was looking for some new lions to photograph, ones that hadn't been photographed really professionally before. And he had the best night drive he had ever had. And I said, "Well, we're thinking about putting in a hide." And he was like, I'd be keen to help you out if you want. So we were very excited about that. And he came on board, and he has helped us out tremendously with all of his great photos and his knowledge on lighting, positioning the hide. And we're very grateful for that. And it's been a big success. I like my photography as well, so I try and think I'm teaching Will a lesson or two. Not really, but a lot of the photos that we have on our Instagram, I've taken some of them, so I kind of feel quite cool about that. But a big thanks to Will, though, really.
Yeah. No, well, that's brilliant. And it's working out really well. I've enjoyed my time there. All right. Well, I'm just going to quickly move back over to Ross and Caro. I'm going to bring up the presentation again so that we can show some of your photos. But Ross and Caro, it'll be you've obviously also got a big history in Kenya, a big history in the hospitality and safari industry and conservation as well. So it would be lovely to hear a little bit more from you both, please.
Thank you very much, Anna, and thank you for this opportunity to introduce us to everyone. Yeah, Ross and I, we got together. We've been married now for 20 years. We got together when we were pretty young, and we did a lot of traveling together. We actually drove a very old Land Rover from UK across Africa, which took us about 9 months. So we got to know each other very well, and a lot of places in Africa. It was a really great experience. And then we came back and we actually started working on my parents' lodge on Lake Victoria. And then after a few years of that, we skipped across to our little island on Lake Baringo, Samatian. And that's actually where we got married, and then our kids grew up there until they were little, 4 or 5. And then Ross actually started the Ruco Wildlife Conservancy with the guys there, in conjunction with the Pokot and the Njems tribes. And we introduced the Rothschild's giraffe back to the area that hadn't been seen there for about 70 years. There's some pictures there. Yeah, that's how we had to get them onto the island initially. I'll let you talk about this bit.
No, so we actually introduced them to what we thought was going to be mainland on the eastern shore there, and it had flooded, but it normally wasn't flooded. So we got the giraffe there, and the lake never went down again. So we ended up the area, which was about 200 acres. We thought when we introduced them there, they would be there for maybe a year, and then it would become part of the mainland again. And they would just naturally go into the greater habitat, 20,000 acres. But the area sadly got smaller and smaller, and the lake level rose about 40 foot. So I don't know when it was, a couple of years ago, 2021, we had to think again and
move them all off.
move them all off, and they'd got bigger and feistier. And anyway, we were really lucky. It all worked well, and they're now double the population, and they're doing really, really well. They're much healthier on the mainland now. They're in the big area.
We actually, because of the flooding, we lost most of Samatian, our beautiful pool and the mess, some of our rooms. We've moved the kitchen now 3 times. And we were also running Robert's Camp on the mainland at that point. There's actually a picture there with some crocodiles through the window. That one more. That's, yeah, that one through the window. That was my grandmother's house. So we lived there for many years, and I partly grew up there, as well as growing up in the Mara. And the picture on the left here is my father, Willie. He was one of 6 kids growing up in Baringo, and he actually started a business when he was 19, running island camp and doing a lot of safaris. Yeah, he's decided to hell with school, and because his father died when he was only 13, he wanted to help his mother with the family business. So he started tourism from a very early age, and it sort of continued through us. Tourism and conservation has been our thing. Anyway, when we were flooded out of Baringo, we moved to Nanyuki, and we've started a little place there called One Stop. And then obviously my parents have got a place on Leeward Downs called Surikoi, a well-known lodge, and my mother's still there now. And then when my father passed away in 2017, Ross and I inherited this beautiful mobile camp. And we had the opportunity, we were coming down to the Mara a lot. And when the opportunity of this beautiful location on the river came up, we jumped to it. And, you know, living in the Mara, I know the Mara very well. And I have to say that this is definitely the most beautiful part of it. And we're very honored and very lucky to be here. It's lush and green and gorgeous views. And it's also a very quiet area. This year the park fees have gone up quite a lot, but hopefully I think that will just help with the crowds, because the Mara had a reputation of being quite overcrowded at certain times of year. So I'm sure there will be good benefits to the park fees going up. Anyway, we've been here for a while now, and we're getting stuck in with conservation and community projects, developing the camp. It's very much a mobile camp, but it's obviously more luxurious because we're lucky to be permanent. And yeah, here we are. We've got 2 boys, Charlie, and the guy in the middle here is our youngest son, Dan, who's very, very keen photographer. He's still at school. But Charlie has left, and he's done his eco training course. He's done a year in Quest in Zimbabwe. He did his bronze when he was just 12. And he's very passionate about wildlife and photography and guiding. So yeah, we're all very much in that business.
Brilliant. It's lovely to see. And with a photographer and a guide as sons, then you're doing really well, aren't you?
Yeah, we're very lucky. They're both often here hosting with us in camp.
Brilliant.
Which is great when you get families with teenagers. It just adds another aspect, and it's super fun.
It is, and I also particularly like the variety of activities as well, because obviously people do come to the Mara and spend a lot of time doing game drives and things like that. But it's so lovely that you've also incorporated the sort of the cultural aspect, but also the researchers, going out just to meet the researchers or having the researchers come in. That part is also lovely, in line with what's happening in the Mara, right?
Yes, I've been talking to Anne Kent Taylor, and she's got an amazing project, and so we're going to engage with her more and more and offer opportunities that side too for people to meet, go and see the schools and the women's groups there.
That's actually the middle picture is our son Charlie helping the Anne Kent Taylor Fund. We found an elephant with a snare around its head, a baby elephant. So we were in the right place at the right time when we got involved and helped with that. And they're an amazing group. They're on the ground. Involved with the Sheldricks who came in and helped with the vets and everything. It's a really great project.
What's really lovely is that my father Willie, he actually started the Mara Conservancy, which is all this beautiful area right across the river from us. And it's so nice to see that they're so successful that side, and they've got all that support them with KWS and the Sheldricks. And they're doing so much for wildlife in that area. We're very, very lucky to have them here.
So it's a bit like coming home for you.
It's very much like coming home. It's very nice to be home. I do feel home here.
And having travelled all over Africa together, the Mara has become one of your favourites as well. I mean, obviously it's nice to be there, but is it really also a favourite?
I think it was just a natural progression that we, the first 3 or 4 years that we had mobile expeditions, we were doing safaris all over Kenya. And we were just naturally drawn to the Mara, and we got this opportunity here, and it really is a lovely place. It's the Garden of Eden. We couldn't refuse. This is our focus now.
And we're also very lucky because Ross is a pilot, so we do get to go between Samatian and Sirikoi and Nanyuki and here in his plane. Which I'm very grateful for, not having to drive those long distances.
Yes, I can imagine that. And as we chatted about this morning, there's going to be an airstrip for people to go running on, so that's brilliant as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But equally, I mean, the team that you've got there, which you're obviously nurturing because it's a relatively new fixed camp. Tell us about the team and where they're coming from and training and things like that.
So basically, when my father had this camp, he had a very well-oiled machine, but all his staff were from upcountry. So when we came down here, we've agreed that over 70% of our employees will be Maasai, which is fair enough, and we want to support the people in this area and train them and give them employment. So we've just basically been, we've been here for quite a while now, and we've been bringing in new people with different groups, trialing, testing everyone. And we've narrowed it down. We've got a pretty good team. We usually, when we're quite quiet, we're down to about 14 staff. And Ross has got some pretty amazing guides.
We've got a wonderful team here. The local Maasai here they really are very, very down to earth. They can mix with anyone. They're great. They're great hosts.
And we have spotters in all the vehicles as well as the guide. So the guests, you've got 2 Maasai employed in your vehicle when you come here. So you are supporting lots of families, and you get to see a lot more because you've got a spotter in the back who can see a lot more than the driver can in the front. So the driver guide is guiding you, and then the spotter is spotting everything and making sure they go to the right places and don't go into that hole, etc., etc. And they're really fun people. They've got a great sense of humor.
And the other thing I love is the fact that obviously people come and they want to see the migration, but for the rest of the time, you really just kind of try and switch off and find what you can find without following the masses, right?
As long as you're away from the river, as long as you're away from the hotspots where everyone is, you've got this enormous ecosystem that's just there. So we do a thing called a long day where we go out. We might go out with a picnic, and then we'll just go out for the day, and we go down near the border with Tanzania, and there's no one down there, absolutely no one. And then when we come back, we'll see if there's any action going on the river, and if there is, we'll pull in there, but we won't spend hours. We don't sort of crowd on the river with hundreds of other vehicles. We really try and stay away from them, and we try and find our own game. We don't follow everyone else, so it's just more of a natural
There's
experience.
no radios in the car, so we have no idea what's going on out there, and if we see vehicles over there, we go in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
We'll find our own lions.
Yeah.
And the joy as well is that if you go out on the long day, you can take a rug and some cushions so people can have a little snooze under a tree. It's all done at a very good pace, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's totally up to the guests, whatever they feel like doing. So it's all about.
I just had one question come through from Suzanne, talking about private vehicles. Now, both camps, Shompole and Roca, were exclusive use before, but are no longer. Roca does do exclusive use vehicles per group. Sam and Johann, if people want to book a private vehicle, can they do that?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, not a problem. In fact, because we only take 2 groups at a time, each group will have their own vehicle.
Okay, brilliant. That's great to know. And then generally it's Nixon and you guiding then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. For anyone else, I mean, we can keep chatting a little bit, but please pop some questions in if you'd like to find out more from Sam and Johann and Ross and Caro about Roca River Camp and Shompole, because we're here also to answer your questions. We want to give as much information, but also we want you to just give a feel for the people behind these incredible places. We've just had another question as well from Suzanne. Thank you. For reaching Shompole, what's the fastest way to come over? Well, it's about a 20-minute flight, isn't it, from Nairobi? It is charter, certainly at the moment, maybe as other companies come into the area, but for moment now it is chartered. So it would be a 20-minute flight. I flew in with Scenic Air as an example. And what was lovely is that we flew the whole length of Lake Magadi right down to Natron and Shompole Hill and then back again. So it really does add an incredible element to it. Alternatively, you could drive in, which is about 3 to 4 hours. There's actually a museum of mankind on the way, so that's quite a good little toilet stop, although 3.5-4 hours is perfectly doable, and it's a great little road. And then what my recommendation is that if you are starting at Shompole, to then maybe look at getting a nice scenic flight out over the Loiter Hills to the Mara, if that's what your itinerary is going to be. Following that, the next question. Sorry, Johann.
Yeah. Also, while we're on that sort of with the flights, there's also beautiful helicopter flights around here with a pink lake. Lake Magadi is a beautiful, stunning red color. If you want to have a look at some of the photos on our Instagram page, those are photos that I've taken. And yeah, from the air, it is an unbelievable flight. It's about, we'd recommend was probably an hour and a half, and it will get you to see both Lake Magadi and Lake Natron with some of the wetlands that we have down below with lots of ellies. And yeah, if you want to book it, then you can contact one of the charter companies out there.
Thank you. And then talking about children, first of all, there's a question about age restriction for children, and B, just catering for children. It would be lovely to find out a little bit more. Shall we start with Caro and Ross, please?
So basically, we can have kids from any ages. We've also got 2 wonderful nannies here who can babysit at night if their kids want to go to bed early in their tents. Or sometimes we just put up camp cots and they can be in the sitting room nearby. And we can do any food they like, basically. They just have to give us preferences before they come, and we'll make sure we're ready for that.
Fabulous. And there's lots of activities, as we all know. The Maasai are absolutely brilliant with kids. So you've got a lovely sort of river's edge beach, if you like, where you can go hunting for artifacts,
Yeah.
I guess, and playing around. There's lots of things that you can do. Maasai sort of spear throwing, making, fire building, all of those kind of things, which you can also do at Shompole too.
Yes, and then we can bring in the ladies who do the beading. We've got a little room there which has got a big trunk full of all sorts of kids' games, toys, badminton, pool, football, any of that. So kids don't get bored here.
Brilliant. And age restrictions for Shompole Wilderness Camp?
21. No kids allowed. It's the same as Ross and Caro. Very, very welcome. Obviously, we've had our kids here since they were born. So yeah, kids are very welcome. We can do kids' meals, like Caro said, just tell us in advance. And we've also got, lots of different games.
And activities as well.
People just need to take note that it does get hot here, and having kids that are very small, we're welcome. They're not a problem, but it's just something for parents to note that kids might not be too happy when it's too hot.
And it's also the you have got fans in the rooms, so they there is that, but also what I was going to say is that with kids you can also sleep in the hide, which is quite fun as well. But again, it's worth keeping an eye on that heat, although again you've got some fans in there as well, but it's worth keeping an eye on. And then there's another question here, which was the airstrip. So in terms of flying to Roca River Camp, the closest airstrip is Muziara, and then you would enter through the gate. In terms of charter, does that apply too?
You don't need to enter through the gate. It's in the park. So once you're free and you're in.
You're in, and then there is a ticketing system at the airport, at the airstrip.
But you won't get held up with it.
Brilliant.
So basically, we pay for everyone's tickets in advance. And then we get the tickets cut that morning that they arrive, so there won't be any waiting. We would have arranged all of it before they arrive.
Fantastic. An airstrip for sorry, Ross.
It's a half an hour to the camp, but we never make it in half an hour because there's always too much to see along the way. So it takes as long as it takes. But if it needs to, it takes half an hour.
Yes, and do you know, the first time I landed at Muziara airstrip, I needed to go to the bathroom soon after, and then found myself frozen staring at a lion behind the vehicle, but he was an old man. And I remember that was my first ever, it was my first ever time in the Mara.
Well, there is a loo at the Muziara airstrip now, so.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that's great for everyone who doesn't want to be squatting face to face with an old lion, even though he was very chilled. And then with regards to Shompole, there are 2 airstrips. The one closest to Shompole Wilderness Camp is Rangers, which is roughly 20 minutes.
Yeah, we can do it in 20 minutes. We can do it a bit quicker, so that if people need to get back and forth. But yeah, it's a nice 20-minute drive to camp. It's easy. And then the other one is, if we've had a lot of rain, then Rangers is closed. We'll drive to Lake Magadi, which would take about an hour.
Brilliant. That's my questions that have come in. Have anyone got any other questions that they might like to ask, or find out more, or find out any secrets? I did have 2 people raise hand, but I'm not sure I know what to do with that. I think they're just saying hello, to be honest. Lower all hands. There we go. But was there anything you guys would like to add or say or tell or share?
I don't think so.
That's a very big question, isn't it? No,
I just have one question about Shompole. There was a picture of you with a pool. You were mentioning how hot it is, but you do have a pool, is that right?
Yeah.
It's a little pool, and it's not particularly cold. but honestly, when we have kids here, they spend their a lot of time in it. And of course, it does help. You can swim in the river. So if parents are feel comfortable with that, then the river's quite cool, actually. So that's a great way for kids to spend the middle of the day. And just on the heat, I guess, maybe we could add that we tend to do most of the activities early morning and later afternoon, and then spend the heat of the day either in the pool or the river or tubing or something like that. So it tends to be a place where early mornings, late afternoons, maybe a brunch instead of breakfast, just so that you catch the more comfortable times of day. And it is also usually a very dusty place. So all of that, it's kind of maybe you come to us first and deal with that, and then go and cool off with Ross and Caro. If you go to them first, you'll get a shock when you get to us.
It's a great, like the Mara, it's a very good photographic destination. We have got a lot of dust. We know what dust is properly. And for a photographer, one of the best things is dust, but for a camera, dust is not the best thing, but you can get some absolutely stunning images here, and then go on to the Mara and get your lions and leopards and all the rest of it.
Brilliant. So I've got another question. We're talking about weather, as we have done. The weather, when I was with you guys in the Mara, I think it was September, we were talking about El Nino and the rains. And then we talked this morning that actually it's all been very manageable. But the question I've been given is, how is El Nino affecting the Mara? And are you having lots of rain at the moment? Thankfully, as we're chatting to you now, it's quite nice and sunny and dry behind you. So but how has it been really? Because we chatted about the river rising and things like that.
So we got a lot of rain in December, and then even more in January. I think the Mara saw more rain in January than it has forever. But it was, our road, it was a bit like driving through the Okavango swamps to get here. But we never didn't manage. It was fine. And now it's absolutely beautiful. We're having the odd big showers come through, but it's perfect again. I think that was particularly unusual weather for January. It's not normally like that.
But I think that's the world in general. We're seeing trends that, that have never been seen before. You never know what you're going to get. It's very hard now to say, okay, come in January or June or something in a month like that, and it'll be dry or it'll be wet. It's changed. So,
but even when it's a rainy month, we do get a lot of sunshine in between. Yeah. It's not a write-off. There's still a lot to see, and it's quite a special time to see it. We are a little bit restricted in where we go, because we have to cross quite a lot of rivers on our longer game drives. But that's pretty unusual.
Great. So and from where I'm sitting, it looks lovely. I went on a dog walk here the other day and slipped and slided in mud knee deep. No, it looks lush and green behind you, which is also wonderful.
It really is. It's absolutely stunning. I couldn't be more beautiful right now.
The only thing, the grass is too long at the moment. We need it to dry out a little bit, and then it's better for game viewing. But if we don't have the game right here at the moment, then we go somewhere else. There's always a place with it.
But we have a lot of giraffe, a lot of buffalo, water buck, a lot of lion all the time. It's just the plains game, really. That goes a bit further. What
we have that's amazing is we get these river crossings here, where you'll see a herd of elephants, or even the giraffe, all crossing the river, and that's just right here in front of camp when they go across. just phenomenal.
I know. Well, listening to both your reviews where you had the Ellies in front of camp, a few hours ago, and Johann and Sam had cheetah on a morning game drive and lion at the hide. So it's all pretty envious making for all of us sitting here. But on that note, we are also going to be running a couple of educational trips this year. We've got one next month, which is already filled, which will include both Roca River Camp and Shompole Wilderness. And then Caro very kindly is in the process of finishing off one for me to put out there and market for the end of November, December, which will include again both Shompole Wilderness and Roca River Camp, but also include some of her family members' camps as well, which will be a fantastic educational trip. We're just finalizing that, and then we'll send through some information. So I don't see any other questions. Thank you so much to everyone who has given questions and everyone for joining us today. I will be following up and send over fact sheets and rates, the recording if you'd like it, and any other information that I can think of. So it's been really lovely to have you all join us today. Ross and Caro, Sam and Johann, thank you so much for doing this today. I know it was a little bit of, but I think it's really nice to see your faces and hear a bit more about your stories. And I think that's what people can relate to. And we're getting, I don't know why the chat box is off, but we're getting some lovely thank you for the presentation comments from people who I know are also interested in visiting later in the year. Equally, if anyone is coming to Kenya, not on one of our educational trips, if you are in the area, you are very welcome to come and experience our products firsthand so that you know what we're about and things like that. So with that, I would say a huge thank you to everyone for joining us. And if there are any questions afterwards, please just email me. I'll be in touch, and I'll give you all the details to be in touch with them directly. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Anna.
Anna.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.